The night hums with laughter and violin. Strings as golden lanterns sway above the garden where my sister's engagement unfolds. I, Elliot, linger outside near the hedges, cigarette trembling between my fingers while the warmth of the party pulses through the air. Clara, radiant in her ivory gown, moves among guests like a queen, and Mother's sharp laughter cuts through the chatter. I should be inside, celebrating her happiness, but the weight of a secret keeps me rooted to the cool grass. The sky darkens, the stars blur, and then a voice booms over the speakers. And now, please welcome Elliot Carter. My blood freezes. The crowd parts inside the hall. Lights converge toward the stage, and my name hangs like a verdict. Every eye turns toward the garden door where I stand framed in shadow, the secret no longer safe. The applause greets me like a storm I never sought. Clara beams from the stage, her joy unbroken, her hand gesturing me forward as if nothing unravels beneath the surface. Mother watches with eyes that hold both warning and pride. Daniel nods politely, unaware of the tension simmering beneath my calm. I force a smile, the crowd's cheer ringing hollow in my ears. The lights are too bright, the air too thick. I step beside Clara, her perfume sweet, nostalgic, like the summers we once shared before everything fractured. "Say something," she whispers, her voice trembling behind the laughter. The mic feels heavy in my hand, and for a second, I wonder if this night was meant for celebration or confession. The microphone crackles as my voice breaks the silence. I think the guests speak of love and family, but each word feels borrowed, foreign. Clara keeps her hand on my shoulder, steady, trusting, fragile. I see her eyes glisten, not with tears, but questions she dares not ask here. Mother looks relieved, Daniel oblivious, and for a fleeting second, I almost believe the lie I'm spinning. Then, through the blinding lights, a familiar face in the crowd. Mara, her expression unreadable, her presence unexpected. My throat dries. The truth I buried beneath my sister's happiness claws its way up again, demanding voice amid the applause. Later, under the pretense of air, I find Mara near the garden's edge, her dress a deep scarlet against the night. The laughter fades behind us. "You shouldn't have come," I murmur, but she only smirks, her eyes shimmering with memory and resentment. "You didn't tell her, did you?" she asks. The silence answers for me. Somewhere inside, Clara's name echoes in a toast, and I feel the weight of betrayal sharpen. Mara steps closer, voice low. Secrets have a way of finding the mic. Her words slice the air, leaving me breathless, knowing that tonight's applause may yet become a reckoning. As I re-enter the hall, the crowd gathers around Clara for the cake cutting. The knife glints like a promise in her hand. I take my place beside Mother, who whispers, "You've done well." I force another smile, watching Mara through the glass as she lingers just beyond the lights. Clara calls my name again, her voice tender, unaware of the tremor beneath it. The crowd counts down. Laughter peals, and the first slice cuts through icing and silence alike. The moment freezes, perfect, fragile, and false. Somewhere between the flashbulbs and the music, I know the truth will not stay outside much longer. Morning light filters through the lace curtains of my childhood room, now unfamiliar in its stillness. The echoes of last night's laughter linger like smoke. Elliot lies awake, staring at the ceiling as fragments of music and confession swirl in his mind. Downstairs, Mother hums, her movements precise, rehearsed as if nothing fractured under the weight of unspoken truth. Clara's laughter drifts faintly from the kitchen, soft, trusting, devastating. He rises, buttoning his shirt with hands that remember trembling on stage. Mara's words claw at the edge of his thoughts. Secrets have a way of finding the mic. As he steps toward the stairs, the scent of coffee, roses, and impending ruin meets him halfway. At breakfast, the table gleams with forced normalcy, toast, coffee, and the ghost of last night's applause. Clara chats about floral arrangements while Mother scribbles notes in her planner. Elliot listens, each word sinking heavier than the last. The silence between them hums like static. "You disappeared before the speech is ended," Mother says, not looking up. Clara brushes it off with a smile too wide, too bright. Elliot swallows his guilt with burnt coffee, his eyes flicking toward the window where Mara's scarlet car idles just beyond sight. Every sound feels staged, every glance rehearsed, and beneath it all, something trembles, ready to break. Later at the florist's, Clara arranges new bouquets for the post-engagement brunch. The air smells of lilies and damp soil. Elliot helps her trim stems, their conversation brittle. "Polite, you seemed. Distant last night," she says gently, her eyes searching his face. "Just nerves," he replies, the lie bitter on his tongue. She nods, pretending to believe him, her smile trembling like the petals between her fingers. Then her phone buzzes. A message she doesn't open. But Elliot sees the name flash across the screen. Mara. The scissors slip from his grasp, clattering against the counter. Silence blooms, more suffocating than the scent of flowers. That evening, the city glows beneath a drizzle, streets slick with reflections. Elliot meets Mara in a quiet cafe, the hum of rain filling the silence between them. She looks at him with both anger and pity. She doesn't know, does she? He shakes his head, the truth caught behind his teeth. "You owe her more than silence," Mara says, her voice trembling now, softer than he remembers. A waiter passes, and the tension folds back into stillness. For a moment, Elliot imagines telling Clara everything. The past, the affair, the mistake that binds them all. But courage is a language he forgot how to speak. By nightfall, the engagement banners still flutter in the hall, their shimmer mocking the silence in the house. Clara sits by the piano, fingers tracing keys without sound. Mother busies herself with clearing decorations, pretending not to notice her children drifting further apart. Upstairs, Elliot watches from his window as Mara's car pulls away into the rain, taillights fading like guilt into darkness. He opens his phone, thumb hovering over Clara's contact, but no words form, only a single tear that falls soundlessly onto the glass. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolls, soft but inevitable. The night holds its breath, waiting for what must come. The next morning breaks under a pale, exhausted sun. The engagement hall has been emptied, yet its silence carries the ghost of laughter. Elliot walks through the space, his footsteps echoing on polished floors, haunted by applause that no longer feels like praise. He stops where he once stood under the spotlight, imagining Clara's radiant smile and Mara's stare slicing through the crowd. The air still smells faintly of roses and regret. Mother enters quietly, holding a box of leftover decorations. "You're distant again," she says, not as accusation but concern. Elliot meets her eyes but says nothing. The light through the high windows fractures into shards, casting patterns like secrets too sharp to hold. At a downtown cafe, Clara sits with her friend Lena, stirring her untouched tea. Her laughter is measured now, more practiced than felt. "He's been quiet lately," she confides, eyes fixed on the condensation sliding down the glass. Lena offers gentle words, but Clara hears only her own doubts whispering back. She glances out the window, where Elliot's reflection appears on the street corner, watching, uncertain whether to enter. Their eyes meet through the glass, suspended between guilt and innocence. For a brief second, she almost smiles, but the distance between them has already grown too wide to bridge with gestures. The moment fractures as a bus passes, erasing him from view. Later that evening, Elliot meets Mother in her study, where the scent of old books and wine thickens the air. "It's about Mara, isn't it?" she asks without preamble, eyes sharp yet weary. He hesitates, but her gaze pins him in place. I thought I could keep it from her, he murmurs. From Clara, mother sighs, setting her glass down. Secrets rot faster than love, Elliot. They always do. Her words land like judgment and mercy intertwined. The clock ticks louder than breathing. Elliot looks toward the doorway, wondering if confession could still save what's left, or if silence is now the only kindness he can offer. Rain falls again that night, relentless and cold. Elliot drives aimlessly through slick streets until he finds himself outside Mara's apartment. He doesn't knock. Instead, he watches the light flicker behind her curtains, her silhouette pacing the room. He remembers laughter once shared, promises once made, and the night it all ended. Clara's name breaking the silence like a curse. The windshield fogs, and his reflection blurs with the city lights. He grips the steering wheel, whispering her name. Mara, not out of love, but remorse. Then the light turns off. The rain swallows everything else. He starts the car and drives into the darkness, the wipers keeping time with his guilt. Back at home, Clara waits in the dark, her phone glowing faintly on the table beside untouched wine. She scrolls through her messages, stops on Mara's name again, unread but radiating threat. When Elliot finally enters, drenched and silent, she doesn't turn. Who is she? She asks, voice low but steady. The air between them cracks open, fragile as glass. Elliot exhales, every lie unraveling in that breath. Someone I should have told you about long ago. She closes her eyes, tears unfallen. You should have told me yesterday. The storm outside grows wilder, as though the world itself refuses their silence. Neither moves as the lights flicker, leaving only shadows to bear witness. The storm lingers through dawn, draping the house in a hollow stillness. Elliot sits at the kitchen table, sleepless, his fingers tracing the rim of a cold cup of coffee. Upstairs, Clara moves quietly, her footsteps slow, deliberate. Mother enters, robe wrapped tightly around her frame, eyes sharp despite fatigue. You told her, she says. He nods once, the silence heavier than confession. Then you've done what must be done, she adds. But her voice trembles with the weight of things mothers never want to hear. Through the window, the rain has thinned into mist, and sunlight creeps in uncertainly, like forgiveness hesitating at the door. By midday, Clara drives to the coast alone, the engagement ring lying in the passenger seat like an echo. The sea wind whips through her hair as she stands by the railing, waves clawing at the rocks below. She replays his words, each one deliberate, remorseful, final. The horizon stretches endlessly, indifferent to her age. She closes her eyes and remembers childhood summers with Elliot, before love became betrayal, before innocence fractured into truth. A single tear slips free, vanishing into the salt air. Behind her, the tide rises, erasing footprints she'll never retrace. Back in the city, Mara sits in her apartment, the radio playing faint classical music beneath the hum of rain. Her reflection in the mirror is calm, almost detached. She scrolls through photos, her and Elliot, laughing, younger, unburdened. She deletes each one slowly, a ritual of release. Yet when she reaches the last image, Clara's engagement party, her thumb hesitates. She deserved better, she whispers, and for the first time her voice breaks. She turns off the radio, silence settling like penance. Outside, the city breathes, unaware of the quiet endings written in small apartments and broken hearts. Evening falls with a weary grace. Elliot drives to the church where Clara once practiced piano for recitals, the same one where they sang as children. The doors creak open, dust dancing in the candlelight. He sits at the piano, fingers hovering above ivory keys, trembling. The melody that escapes is broken, half memory, half plea. The music carries upward, echoing through the empty nave, a confession too late, for words. As the final note fades, he whispers her name, not expecting forgiveness but needing to release the sound into something larger than guilt. The candles flicker, their light bending like absolution. That night, Clara returns home quietly, the sea still in her eyes. The house smells of rain and wilted roses. Elliot stands in the living room, uncertain, his suit rumpled, his expression raw. She sets her keys on the table, their clatter louder than any argument. For a long moment, neither speaks. Then Clara says softly, "You were my brother before you were my secret." Her voice breaks only once, then steadies. Elliot lowers his gaze, unable to meet the ruin he caused. She walks past him toward the stairs, pauses halfway, and adds, "Tomorrow, I'll tell Mother it's over." Her footsteps fade upward, leaving him in the half-light of consequence. Dawn seeps through pale curtains, painting the house in muted gold. Clara's suitcase lies open on the bed, half filled with clothes and silence. Elliot stands in the doorway, hollow-eyed, as if sleep has abandoned him for good. "You're leaving," he says, though it's not a question. Clara nods without looking up. "I need air that isn't heavy with ghosts." The sound of zippers and folded fabric becomes the morning's dirge. Downstairs, Mother's faint voice hums a hymn, pretending not to hear the quiet collapse of her family. The smell of coffee burns faintly in the kitchen, the kind of smell that once meant home. In the kitchen, Mother pours coffee into 3 cups, though only 2 are claimed. "You'll tell her I'm sorry?" she murmurs, her voice steady, but her hands trembling. Elliot nods, watching the steam rise like prayers too late. "She'll be fine," he lies. Mother smiles sadly. Fine is what people say when they're broken quietly. The clock ticks between them, marking seconds that feel like verdicts. Outside, Clara's car engine hums, a low, final sound. Mother doesn't turn to watch her leave. She simply lifts her cup, eyes glistening in reflection, and whispers, "Let it be enough." At the train station, Clara waits beneath the arched roof, suitcase beside her, ticket clutched like salvation. The air smells of iron, rain, and departure. Mara appears at a distance, hesitant but determined. Their eyes meet. 2 women bound by the same man, the same wound. Clara's lips part, but no anger comes, only weary recognition. Mara steps closer, whispers, "He's not who he was." Clara answers softly, "Neither am I." The announcement echoes above them, and Clara boards without turning back. Mara stands alone, the sound of the departing train swallowing whatever forgiveness might have been spoken. That evening, Elliot walks along the same coastal road Clara visited days before. The waves crash harder now, the sky bruised with dusk. He removes his jacket, the wind cutting cold against his skin. In his pocket, the engagement invitation, the one with his name printed proudly, crumples in his fist. "It was never supposed to end like this," he murmurs to the sea. But the sea does not answer. He closes his eyes, listening to its rhythm. Chaotic, relentless, forgiving in its own cruel way. For the first time in weeks, he breathes deeply, as if exhaling the last of his shame. Night settles over the Carter home for the final time. Mother moves through empty rooms, touching framed photographs as though feeling for heartbeat. The laughter frozen in each picture mocks the silence that follows her steps. Upstairs, Elliot packs a small bag, pausing at the door to look back once. Clara's room stands open, sunlight from the street lamp spilling across the floor. He whispers her name, faint as prayer, then leaves without sound. Downstairs, Mother watches from the window as his car disappears into darkness. The lights go out one by one, leaving only the echo of what once held them together. Months later, the city blooms again beneath a gentler sun. Elliot walks through narrow streets, lined with cafes, his hair longer, his steps slower. The noise of life continues around him. Vendors calling, laughter rising, children chasing pigeons. But he moves as though in a quieter rhythm. He's found work at a small bookstore near the river, surrounded by pages that forgive more easily than people do. Every morning, he opens the shop early, the smell of ink and dust grounding him. He hasn't seen Clara or Mara since that night, yet their shadows linger like uninvited ghosts at the edge of each sunrise. In a seaside town far away, Clara sits at a cafe overlooking the harbor. Her hair flutters in the salt breeze as she sketches in a worn notebook, tracing memories she no longer fears. A stranger brings her tea and smiles. She returns it. Small, genuine, healing. The waves crash softly, rhythmically, a language she's begun to understand. She wears no ring now, only a silver bracelet she made herself. When the wind lifts her sketch, she catches it midair, laughing at the clumsy grace of her new piece. For the first time in months, she feels the sun touch her face without burning. One evening, Elliot receives a letter with no return address. The handwriting is familiar. Steady, graceful, Clarice. He hesitates before opening it, breath catching as he reads. She writes of quiet mornings by the sea, of peace, found not in forgetting but forgiving. I hope you're living, she ends, not just existing. The words sting and soothe in equal measure. He folds the letter carefully, places it in the pocket of his coat, and steps outside. The river glows beneath the fading sun, and somewhere in the distance, a church bell tolls, not as a warning, but as an ending, finally at rest. Meanwhile, Mara performs on stage in a dim jazz club, her voice smoky and fragile, carrying stories no one knows are real. The crowd sways, lost in her melody, unaware of the history wrapped in every note. Between verses, her eyes close, and for a fleeting moment, she imagines Elliot listening somewhere, just long enough to forgive her, or himself. When the song ends, applause ripples through the room, but she doesn't bow. She simply smiles at the microphone and whispers, "Good night," as if singing it to a memory. As twilight deepens, Elliot locks up the bookstore and walks along the bridge where the river meets the city's heart. He pulls Clara's letter from his pocket, reads it once more, then lets the wind take it. The paper dances above the water, glimmers briefly in the streetlight, and vanishes. He leans against the railing, breathing in night. The scent of rain, ink, and something new. From a nearby cafe, faint music drifts out. A woman's voice, familiar, aching, Morris. He smiles faintly, eyes closed. The world continues, softer now, as if finally exhaling the story it's held too long. A year later, spring returns quietly to the city, dressing old streets in new bloom. Elliot opens the bookstore as he always does, the bell above the door chiming like a heartbeat. The shelves smell of paper and rain, and for the first time, the scent feels like belonging. He waters the ivy by the window, his reflection blending with the morning sun outside. The world beyond has healed in its own unhurried rhythm, and so has he, fragment by fragment. On the counter sits a postcard from the coast, a watercolor of a lighthouse, signed simply, "C." He smiles, a small, certain gesture that needs no words. "Nortwind, Ishunyung, to see their eyes sorrow." In the seaside town, Clara walks barefoot along the shore at dawn, the waves brushing her ankles like forgiveness made tangible. Her sketchbook now filled, she pauses to draw the horizon one last time. The sea, endless and familiar, feels like home now, not escape. She looks toward the lighthouse, its beam cutting through the morning haze, a reminder that light is not about absence of darkness, but surviving it. She laughs softly, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear, and whispers to the wind, "Goodbye, Elliot." The tide answers in whispers of its own, carrying her voice far beyond the foam. In the city's twilight, Mara finishes her last set at the club. The final note lingers, trembling through smoke and silence. She thanks the crowd, steps down from the stage, and gathers her things. Outside, the streets glisten under a light rain, reflections folding over her shadow. For the first time, she walks without glancing back, the melody still humming in her chest. An elegy turned lullaby. A cab driver hums along to her song on the radio, and she smiles faintly, realizing the story no longer belongs to sorrow but to survival. As the city fades behind her, she hums, free and unafraid. At dusk, Mother visits the old garden, where the engagement once bloomed in laughter and lanterns. The air hums with cicadas and distant music. She kneels to touch the soil, planting new roses in the same spot where petals once fell. Her hands move slowly, reverently, as if burying grief and sowing peace in its place. A soft smile touches her lips when she stands, brushing dirt from her palms. She looks toward the horizon, whispering, "For them, and for what's left." The lanterns, now faded with age, sway in the wind, echoes of a past that no longer aches. Night descends one final time over the river that threads through all their stories. Elliot walks the bridge once more, a book in his hand, his own writing bound and unfinished. He stops at the center, looking down at the water shimmering under city lights. The wind carries faint notes of music, salt, and memory. He whispers, "We found our peace," and lets the book fall, pages scattering into the current like blessings. The lights blur, the water glows, and the city exhales. Somewhere beyond sight, the sea answers, the song continues, and the past finally, tenderly, lets go.